The Global Magnitsky Act, which targets human rights abusers and corrupt actors globally, needs to be passed in countries that don't have it. And those countries that have passed it, of which there are a handful, haven't really used it yet. So they also need to be pushed, namely by the United States government and nonprofits, to take action.
She had had all these accomplishments over the last 2 years. The grind at the UN is really relentless. I was there, of all the positions I had in government, including compared to the White House, my position at the U.S. mission to the UN was by far the most trying and the most just 24/7.
Ultimately, it's to reach some kind of diplomatic negotiation and agreement. We're far away from that, though. In the moment, they're probably thinking about additional sanctions, possibly some limited airstrikes. There's historical precedent for that. Certainly not an all-out war, though. The end game is not war. That's been made pretty clear. And to me, it's obvious because this administration is focused on targeted financial measures as their tool of choice. But that being said, the critical point here is that President Trump's #1 goal, I don't believe, is to get to another deal. His #1 goal is to undermine Iran's influence in the region and their support for terrorism. They didn't used to lift sanctions as a prerequisite for negotiations to start. Under Obama, though, in 2014, we gave, at the time when I was at the Treasury Department, we gave sanctions waivers and a hold on certain sanctions. They were minor, related mostly to Iranian trade, to kind of, and part of it is a good faith, but, a small step on our side, a small step on their side, so that negotiations could carry
But it was a carrot.
And I think it's normal when you have a situation and a crisis happening in the U.S. hemisphere for the Defense Department to prepare contingency planning. When I was at the White House, that was a normal course of planning, with no matter what the crisis was, even if it wasn't in our hemisphere. But that being said, I don't think that they're thinking of airstrikes, boots on the ground, operations inside Venezuela, an invasion of Caracas. I just don't think that that's very plausible. I don't want to undermine what the coalition has achieved, but to just say that, okay, that's it, now we can leave, it negates every single objective we have in that area. I would not be surprised if Ambassador Rick Grenell had his eye on that position. He was spokesperson for US-UN for 8 years.
Ambassador to Germany, right.
Yes, and now he's works with NATO, and NATO is obviously another multinational organization, and so it lays the foundation for that work.
Do you buy that?
No, it's too convenient. I mean, first of all, they had been lying up until this point, right? MBS saying that the Saudis had nothing to do with this, that, in fact, that he had left the consulate. So to now come out with this story, to me, reads as though they felt the pressure, they felt perhaps the Turks coming in, or maybe the U.S. intel honing in, and they felt they wanted a way out to protect themselves, to ensure that maybe there's something left there for MBS to continue U.S.-Saudi relations, or, relations with any other country. It's just too convenient to try and pawn it off on someone else. Yeah, they absolutely know the danger. There is no interest in war for the United States or for Iran, and both sides are aware of that. That's why the attacks that happened weren't on U.S. vessels or on U.S. property. It was meant as a warning that if there are more sanctions, this is the type of stuff we're going to do, right? The Iranians behave like mafia. We're going to behave badly unless we get something good in return. And it was payback for the U.S. sanctions. The next step I see is them all of the U.S. government leadership heading on the road, meaning they're going to go to Europe, they're going to go to Asia, they're going to go, and we did that when we were at Treasury. They go all over to argue that they now need to implement these sanctions, right? To renew the sanctions that existed before 2015. It's a great tool. I know that I speak a lot about sanctions. But these are my favorite.
You know them well.
Work.
I had never known which, if somebody asked me which are your favorite sanctions, now I know. Hagar Chemali, great to see you as always. Thank you, friend.
Thanks for having me.